Well, hello, YouTube. On today's episode of Know Your Rights, we will be covering a lawsuit out of Maine where a police officer is suing the police department to hide her disciplinary records. If you like this type of content and would like to see more content like this one, please subscribe to our channel. Also, if you have a video you would like me to break down or a news story you would like me to cover, please send me an email at knowyourrightsnews@gmail.com. The link is in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's take a deep dive on this pending lawsuit. To protect her misconduct, a Maine police officer is suing her previous department. In a case that could have larger repercussions for the department, a former South Portland cop is suing to prevent the city from revealing details about her police misconduct. Caitlin Thurlow filed a lawsuit against South Portland in May after learning the officials planned to divulge her disciplinary records to fellow officers and a local attorney, both of whom had requested them under a Maine law that makes police disciplinary records public. Officer Thurlow has since joined the Gorham Police Department. However, in an unexpected twist, the documents were disclosed separately last week as part of a wider database of police disciplinary records by a Maine group that promotes police transparency. It effectively exposed what she had sought to keep hidden, that she had crashed her cruiser several times and sent improper text messages to fellow Maine police dog handlers. Nonetheless, her actions will force South Portland to determine whether it is required to purge written reprimands after a set amount of time, and it may also bar the city from disclosing such data for other unionized employees. This case exemplifies a procedure that has been criticized by police transparency advocates and yet is another example of Maine's sloppy handling of police disciplinary records. Destruction of police disciplinary records strikes me as hugely problematic given the immense powers of the police officers, the trust we place in them to use these powers wisely and honestly, and the constitutional obligations of prosecutors to disclose disciplinary problems in criminal cases during discovery, said Marcus Wright, the lawyer who requested the disciplinary records from South Portland. The question is whether the city is required by the police officers' union contract to destroy written reprimands after a year, as Officer Thurlow claims, or if it is authorized to keep copies subject to public viewing. The state auditor who determines how long public agencies must keep copies of public records should eliminate a regulation that allows police unions and cities to set their own deadlines for erasing disciplinary records, according to Wright. Officer Thurlow and the unions that make up the South Portland Patrol and command officers are represented by Jonathan Goodman, who said the goal of the police union contract is to achieve a compromise between government transparency and officers' privacy when it comes to minor punishments. All we're attempting to do is to get the city to operate inside what we perceive to be a proper legal framework, said Goodman. According to documents received from the Maine First Amendment Coalition, which works for free expression and government transparency, Officer Thurlow was reprimanded by South Portland Police Department on February 8, 2020, for crashing her police cruiser for the third time in 6 years. Former police chief Timothy Sheehan reprimanded Officer Thurlow for her characterization of events in a text thread with police handlers from other agencies and a police dog training group overseen by the Maine State Police on May 14, 2020, according to a second record. Officer Thurlow's actions were unbecoming of a South Portland police officer, reflecting poorly on the department and its police dog unit, and would have resulted in a heavier punishment if she had not taken absolute responsibility of the behavior, according to the records. While the lawsuit is underway, local officials in South Portland have declined to comment. Officer Thurlow and her police dog, Creed, made local news in mid-2018 after finishing 14 weeks of training at the Maine Criminal Justice Academy and becoming South Portland's first female canine team member. According to a letter she submitted to the department leadership, she quit her position as a dog handler on May 27, 2020, a week after her reprimand. Working with police canines was a dream come true, she said, but changes in her personal life meant she couldn't devote the time she needed to the job. Councilor Wright sent a similar request to South Portland in April, 3 months after the coalition requested and received Officer Thurlow's disciplinary records. Councilor Wright specifically requested 10 years of disciplinary information regarding its officers. Officer Corey Hamilton, a South Portland animal control officer, made a narrow request for Officer Thurlow's records, as well as the department's roster of officers who had been identified for credibility issues. Officer Hamilton has remained silent concerning this lawsuit. When Officer Thurlow and her union attorney learned of Officer Hamilton's request, they filed a lawsuit in Cumberland County Superior Court to stop the city from releasing the disciplinary records until a judge could determine whether doing so violated the South Patrol Portland Police Association's collective bargaining agreement. According to the agreement, written reprimands will be removed from an officer's personnel file after 1 year. The dispute between the union and the city officials is on how the word remove is interpreted. Officer Thurlow, who left South Patrol shortly after filing this lawsuit and started working for the police department in Gorman in late June, claims that by removing a file, the city should have destroyed her reprimands after 1 year. The reprimands for text messages to other dog handlers, Officer Thurlow insists that they should be withdrawn even sooner, only after just 6 months. For the rest of the South Portland officers protected by the union, the city should similarly destroy written reprimands older than a year, according to the union's lawyers. However, South Portland claims that once records are removed from an officer's personnel file, they have no bearing on future punishments or promotions. According to the city, a copy of the department's original internal affairs inquiry is still subject to disclosure. Well, YouTube, I hope you liked this video. If so, please take a moment and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you have a video you would like me to break down or a news story you would like me to cover, please send me an email at knowyourrightsnews@gmail.com. The link is in the description below. Until next time, YouTube, stay safe out there.